In our presentation, we plan to discuss animal language and communication in relation to Charles Hockett's design features of language, specifically 9 of the 13 features. We plan to distinguish the difference between animal and human communication in relation to these design features. Every species in their own way has a communication system that they use to produce their thoughts, feelings, and ideas. However, these systems and their capabilities vary depending on species. In order to compare the communication system of animals and humans, we will address the similar and different design features that each systems use. Overall, this study will focus on 9 of Charles Hockett's design features of language. These features are mode of communication, semanticity, pragmatic function, interchangeability, cultural transmission, arbitrariness, discreteness, displacement, and productivity. Through the rest of this presentation, each of the listed design features above will be discussed to a greater extent.
All communication systems have the same features of mode of communication, which refers to how a message is transmitted. Both animals and humans have the possibility to transmit a message in a numerous amount of ways. Some of these ways include use of bodies or objects, visual cues, touch, odor, or electric signals. Elephants are an example of a species that use electric signals to transmit infrasound to communicate with others. Infrasounds are very low-pitched sounds that are used to travel many miles and send messages, allowing them to communicate over long distances. Semanticity and pragmatic function are also design features shared by all communication systems. Semanticity is a property of having signals that convey a meaning, while pragmatic function is the useful purpose of any given communication system. These design features refer to the fact that signals in all communication systems have meaning and that all communication systems serve some useful purpose. Honeybees serve as an example of a species that facilitates both semanticity and pragmatic function. Honeybees use semanticity through the signal dance, which conveys to other honeybees certain information about the food source near their hive. Without this feature, the bees would have no way of sharing information in order to maintain a sufficient food source.
Another animal that exemplifies semanticity is birds. Birds communicate using signals including calls and songs. Calls are more simple sounds that serve a purpose by warning other birds of predators, expressing aggression, coordinating flight activity, or accompanying feeding or nesting behavior. In contrast, bird songs are used to establish their territory or attract a mate. In most species, only males sing. There are also a set of design features that may or may not be found in animal communication systems. Some animal communication systems exhibit the features of interchangeability, cultural transmission, and arbitrariness. When evaluating a system based on its interchangeability, the ability to both send and receive messages are focused on. A species' ability to perform both tasks of sending and receiving helps to differentiate between the way in which communication takes place. An example of animal communication system that does have the ability to do both send and receive messages can be found within the elephant species. Every elephant can use infrasound to send messages to another elephant and in turn receive messages sent back to them the same way. However, the ability for this animal species to be able to do so is not common amongst all animals. For example, contradicting evidence found in society can be shown in the silkworm. Silkworm moth species prove that the male moths can only receive messages and thus do not practice interchangeability. In the silkworm moth chemical communication system, with respect to mating, only the female is able to send messages. When a female is ready to mate, she secretes a chemical that males can trace back to her, but that they can also not solicit themselves. The disability of the males to not be able to secrete a chemical to alert the females proves as evidence for the overall animal species to not practice interchangeability. However, this is only one example in the many examples of communication found in society. Depending on the animal species, some animals will exhibit the feature of interchangeability.
Cultural transmission refers to the fact that at least some aspects of it are learned through interaction with other users of the system. This design feature is found in some animals like fireflies, but not all. In most organisms, the signal code itself is innate or genetically programmed. Dialectal variation indicates that there has been cultural transmission in these cases because the birds learn their dialect from hearing other birds singing. Arbitrariness is the form of a symbol that is not inherently or directly related to its meaning or function. An example of this design feature is when a dog bares its teeth in order to indicate that it is ready to attack. The specific signal of the bared teeth directly correlates to its meaning. In relation to humans, there are some words in language with sounds that seem to echo sounds and therefore seem to have a less arbitrary connection. Discreteness refers to the property of being able to construct complex messages that are built up out of smaller discrete parts. Most animals do not exhibit this property, while all humans do. Discreteness seeks to examine language as a collection of invisible units that come together in order to form a message. An example of this can be shown in animals in the way in which honeybee dances are built up of smaller actions. Although bees do exhibit discreteness, some animals will never exhibit this quality, such as dogs. For example, dogs will sound a singular bark at random moments that does not specify a message. This bark acts alone and consists of one speech sound, therefore it is a part of an animal's language but does not contain any deeper meaning that makes up the bark.
There are two different design features that are exclusively found in the human language. One of these design features is called displacement, which refers to the ability of language to communicate about things, actions, and ideas that are not present in time or space during communication. No animal communication system appears to display this feature, except there is a debate about its presence in an elite selection of bees and some apes to a limited degree. For example, linguist Menzel and his colleagues studied the spatial memory in bonobos. They used road signs with different arbitrary symbols to describe where food was hidden within the forest. A bonobo named Kanzi was able to use the information on the signs to find the hidden food, although the food itself could not be seen at the present time. This suggests that bonobos can understand messages about things that are not present, but does not prove that they are able to perform displacement. It is unknown as to whether Kanzi understands and interprets the message as representing objects that are not present or as an instruction to go somewhere. Therefore, it cannot be firmly stated that bonobos or any animal communication system exhibit displacement when communicating amongst other members. The second design feature that is not found in animal communication systems is productivity, which explains a language's capacity for novel messages to be built up out of discrete units. In other words, productivity refers to the ability of an individual to produce and understand messages that the individual has not been exposed to prior to applying the rules and combining discrete components of language in new ways. This feature is not found in animals because the number of signals in an animal communication system are fixed. Even though the signals in some animal communication systems are complex, there is no mechanism for systematically combining discrete units in new ways to create new signals. There are certain species that portray limited degrees of productivity, but none are able to form new and different combinations to elicit new meanings. For example, some species of birds and whales have songs composed of different units that are combined in various ways. However, regardless of the order in which they appear, the songs have the same meaning. The inability to use different combinations to create signals with novel meanings proves why animals lack this design feature through the ways in which they communicate. From the early 1900s, there have been many attempts to teach apes to talk, but they have had minimal success. Kanzi, on the other hand, is the closest example we have to teaching a primate human language. This project is ongoing, and people are still doing research to discover more findings on Kanzi and the maximum communication he can have with human language. Kanzi did not receive language training. Speech and lexicograms were used to help Kanzi communicate. Research states that Kanzi understood more than he could produce, though. In conclusion, design features have given us the ability to analyze an abundance of animal activity in order to fully examine both human and animal communication. We hope you learn more about the ways in which animals communicate with one another and with humans from our presentation. Thanks so much for watching.